Welcome to Scarborough Theatre Guild's Let's Talk series. And today we have with us Julie McLaughlin, who has been a long-standing member, who's one of the only members remaining that originally worked with Playhouse 66, as far as she recalls. She's directed in 2 languages, she's stage managed in 2 languages, she's acted in 2 languages, and so much more. And now I'd like to introduce Julie McLaughlin. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for inviting me. This is going to be fun.
Oh, I'm excited. So I want to know a bit more about you. You've been with Scarborough Theatre Guild for so long. Could you tell us, a little bit more about all the things you've done? Because a lot of times when we all work together, we only see
what we do on that
moment.
particular show.
Yeah.
Well, my name first appeared on a Theatre Guild program in 1982. And prior to that, I had simply got this brochure from the city of Scarborough, and it listed 3 theatre groups, and I saw one dealt with music, and I couldn't carry a tune if it had handles, so I let that one go, and I phoned the other 2. The first one to reply to me was the Scarborough Theatre Guild. The person who replied was Leslie Webb, no longer a member, but she did come to our 50th anniversary party 10 years ago. Haven't seen her since. Anyway, she replied to me, and I said I want to get involved. She invited me to come to Playhouse 66, the actual building on 66 Denton. And for the next several years, I had the theatrical excitement of cleaning toilets, serving coffee, handing out programs, finding lost gloves in the theater seats, and that kind of theatrical stuff. After a couple of years, somebody heard me talking to somebody, and I had mentioned the magic words theater degree. The next thing I knew, I was sitting up in the booth running sound, my least favorite thing in the theater in the world. I preferred cleaning toilets, but I ran sound for a show. And that was how I first did stuff for the Scarborough Theatre Guild. And that was 1980, 81, 82. My name appears on a program, and the rest is history.
Wonderful. And what have been all the roles since, doing some of the things that...
Well, I never ran sound again. I managed to work my way into, in terms of technical stuff, stage managing, which is something that I studied as part of my theater degree. And as a technical apprentice at Hart House Theatre, I worked with one of my amazing role models, the great Jan Bessie, one of Canada's first prominent female stage managers. She was the stage manager at Hart House, and then theatre manager at Hart House Theatre for decades after that. And she's one of my heroes. And so stage managing was something I wanted to get in on, but I also wanted to act, because who doesn't? So I auditioned for lots of stuff, got cast in very little stuff, but there was always the magic question. Well, Julia, if you don't get a part, do you think we'd get you to stage manage this one? And like an idiot, I said yes. And I kept saying yes. So they stopped even letting me audition. And I wound up stage managing for lots and lots of shows, and I had a wonderful time because it's a job I really enjoy. And to list the shows would take a very long time, and people don't want lists of titles. But trust me, there were lots and lots of shows that says, stage manager Julie McLaughlin. I enjoyed particularly working with a group that I referred to as the grand old men of the theater, the founding members, all now deceased. And they were very interesting to work with because each one of them had a wonderful style of directing, which usually included, "Madam, you solve this one." And I was Madam. So, those men, John Caldwell, Harry Francis, George Quigley, but he didn't direct, and Bill Granger. And they were among my mentors at the beginning of my time with the Guild. In addition to stage managing, of course, as I say, acting, I wound up doing props because I can scrounge anything from anywhere, and I drive a truck. So I could carry big stuff to the theater. I used to do that too. I still do that.
The one thing you haven't mentioned yet is directing. How did you get into that?
Easy. Well, not easy to get chosen to direct, but easy to want to direct. I made my living as a high school teacher for 30 years. So telling people what to do is what I got paid to do. So I'm the oldest child in the family, pretty good at telling people what to do. And it was also something that was part of what I studied, and I wanted to use that skill. I didn't direct for the Guild until much later in my time with the Guild. My first directing gig was the first Maureen Jennings play that we put on, and that was, I think now 8-10 years ago. But I was always interested in directing because the stage manager shadows the director all the time. So working with the great grand old men was an excellent learning opportunity for me as well. But I also directed because as a high school teacher, I was running high school theater. So in the 3 different schools where I taught, we put on shows, different kinds of shows, based on the different interests and talents of the kids that I had with me. But I was used to directing teenagers, so if you can direct teenagers who only recently began to think that theater was not an activity for sissies, then you can direct just about anybody. So I did.
Wonderful. So tell me, we have a lot of people who will be watching that are likely recent theater grads. We have volunteers that just want to get involved. What advice would you give them in terms of getting involved with Scarborough Theatre Guild?
The first piece of advice I would give, and this would be very serious advice if people were to ask for it, if you think that community theatre is the road into professional theatre, it is not. Leave now and go look for professional theatre. They are 2 different worlds. The products are often equally good. The product is not the issue. But if you want to get paid for your theatre skills, don't stay in community theatre. Don't give the skill away. Get somebody to pay for it. And I would be very serious about that. If you want to have a good social time, produce good theatre, have fun with people who share your passions and your artistic talent, you're in the right place, as long as you don't expect to get paid for it. I think that would be important to let people know this is not the way to get into theatre. It's the way to sharpen up your skills and have a good social time, in my opinion.
And is there any starting points to start developing those skills for those that are aspiring to act or to direct or produce, stage manage?
Well, if one wants to learn how to do a job, the old apprenticeship program idea works very well. Volunteer to help out, find out who is, say the stage manager, ask that person if you can help, and hang around and watch. Start by watching and listening, see what people are doing. Take a look at what the stage manager, for example, seems to be responsible for. Ask to sit in on rehearsals and see what's going on. From seeing what's going on, one can probably discern what they'd like to get involved in. Next time there's a call for help, if the producer's name is listed, call that person and say, I would like to help. But get an idea of what you'd like to do first. It doesn't make any sense to say, oh, I'd like to help direct, if the director is not amenable to having that happen. Mm-hmm. So find out what the group is looking for, see if it matches what you're interested in finding out something more about, and volunteer.